What do you see when you look at the night sky? So many constellations fill the sky, watching you, or just a few stars in the modern world. The greatest evil that the modern world has brought us is light pollution, so that we can no longer see the starry skies that our ancestors were mesmerized by at night. But the brains of our human ancestors, tens of thousands of years ago, worked just like ours. It was completing the patterns in the image it saw. It recognized repeated images. Our human ancestors also noticed that the stars they saw at night formed patterns and that they always appeared at the same times in certain situations. They gave names from their own lives to the constellation they first noticed, the Hunter and the Bull. These two constellations were none other than the symbols they had seen on their own lives. They drew these constellations to lead them for the next generations, or perhaps to leave a trace. Our ancestors, who once lived in the Lascaux cave in France, drew three constellations on the walls of the cave where they lived. The oldest surviving written source is Prayer to the Gods of the Night from Mesopotamia. It is estimated to date from around 1700 BC. In addition, beginning around 1100 BC, cuneiform tablets list the names of more than 30 constellations in three bands encircling the sky. A series of three tablets called Mulapin contains long lists of observations on the positions and movements of almost all Mesopotamian star groups. Mulapin was probably used as a textbook at the time. It was copied over and over again with very few changes. The surviving copies date from 684 BC to the 3rd century BC. In the sculpture called Farnes Atlas, we find 42 of the 48 constellations identified by Ptolemy, a Greek and Egyptian writer. In the sculpture, the Titan Atlas carries the firmament on his shoulders. Above the firmament, the stars are almost correctly identified with a difference of 2 degrees. Although Ptolemy's star ruled for 1500 years, the sky wasn't as static as people thought. New explorations by sailors in the southern hemisphere revealed a new sky. Sailors met the stars they had never seen before and began to record every new constellation they saw. This information spread from European sailors to the whole world. As humanity's knowledge about the sky and the stars increased, a standardization was needed. After various attempts by many people, the IAU was founded in the early 20th century on July 28, 1919. In other words, the International Astronomical Union. The IAU consists of individual members, including both professional astronomers and young scientists, and national members, such as professional associations, national societies, or academic institutions. Individual members are organized into sections, committees, and working groups that focus on specific subdisciplines, topics, or initiatives. As of May 2024, the Union has 85 national members and 12,734 individual members, covering 90 countries and territories. The IAU holds a regular General Assembly meeting every 3 years, except for the Second World War. These meetings are still held regularly today. Among the key activities of the IAU is serving as a forum for scientific conferences. It sponsors 9 annual symposia and holds a 3 annual General Assembly that sets policy and includes various scientific meetings. The Union is best known for being the leading authority in assigning official names and designations to astronomical objects, and for setting uniform definitions for astronomical principles. It also coordinates with national and international partners, such as UNESCO, to fulfill its mission. The IAU is a member of the International Science Council, which is composed of international academic and scientific institutions and National Academy of Science. The International Astronomical Union is an international association of professional astronomers at doctoral level and beyond, active in professional research and education in astronomy. Among other activities, it acts as the recognized authority for assigning designations and names to celestial bodies. and the surface features on them. This organization has many working groups, for example, the Working Group on Planetary System Nomenclature, which maintains astronomical naming conventions and planetary naming conventions for planetary bodies, and the Working Group on Stellar Names, which catalogs and standardizes proper names for stars. The IAU is also responsible for the astronomical telegraphy system produced and distributed on its behalf by the Central Bureau of Astronomical Telegrams. The Minor Planet Center also operates under the IAU and is a clearinghouse for all non-planetary or non-moon bodies in the solar system. Well, if we go back to our main topic, it is the organization that gives the names to the constellations. Therefore, one of the first tasks of the IAU after its foundation was to define an internationally accepted set of constellations. At its first General Assembly in Rome in 1922, the IAU's Commission on Notations and Units agreed on a list of 88 constellations covering the entire sky, along with three-letter abbreviations of their Latin names. These are 88 IAU constellations that are still recognized today. But these constellations still had no official defined boundaries, and this was the next text to be tackled. At the second IAU General Assembly in Cambridge, England in 1925, Eugene Delport of the Royal Observatory in Brussels presented a proposal for a clearly defined system of constellations boundaries drawn along the right ascension and declination lines, the celestial equivalents of longitudes and latitudes on Earth. The IAU accepted this proposal and tasked Delport with preparing the official boundaries, provided that all non-variable brightness stars remain within the constellation to which they had previously been assigned. This resulted in some strange-looking outlines. Delport's new boundaries were approved by the IAU at its General Assembly in Leyden in 1928, and the results were published in 1930 in the Delineation Scientifique des Constellations, together with the Atlas Celesti. These constellations, which began as imaginary star patterns, become scientifically defined areas of the sky. Today, when astronomers say that something is inside a particular constellation, they do not mean that it's part of any star pattern, but only within these defined boundaries. In contrast to the historical and indigenous concept of constellation as patterns of light points in the night sky, such as the Chinese star chains or the list of stars under a common headline in historical star catalogs. The IAU defines a constellation as an area in the sky surrounded by its boundary. The boundaries indicated by sky coordinates are defining quantity, not that these boundaries, though are standard recognized by the IAU, are not necessarily universally utilized. Many cultures have had their own asterism for hundreds or thousands of years, and continue to use them. In star maps or charts, it is common to mark line patterns representing the shapes that give the name to the constellations. For IAU constellations, no stick figures or figurative painting styles are formally defined. Consequently, the same constellation may have several variants in its visual representation. In addition to the constellation line patterns, there are also asterism line patterns. Asterisms are distinct from constellations. They are patterns or shapes of stars that aren't related to the known constellation but are widely recognized. Examples include the seven bright stars in Ursa Major, known as the Plough in Europe, the Big Dipper in America, and the Northern Dipper traditionally in China. It should be realized that the groups of stars that make up the original constellation patterns have, in most cases, no physical connection with each other. All constellations are a matter of perspective. They are simply our Earth-based interpretation of two-dimensional star patterns on the celestial sphere, composed of stars of various different brightnesses and at widely differing distances from Earth. So often, what you think is constellation is just an asterism. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, human brains try to combine every shape they see and create an image with it. This is both a blessing and curse for us. They believe that these objects and shapes that we see in the sky are more just than rivers, telling us when it's time to overflow. They thought they had an effect, not only in animate objects, but also on used humans. But we must remember that, as Carl Sagan said,
Also, how could it possibly work? How could the rising of Mars at the moment of my birth affect me, then or now? I was born in a closed room. Light from Mars couldn't get in. The only influence of Mars which could affect me was its gravity. But the gravitational influence of the obstetrician was much larger than the gravitational influence of Mars. Mars is a lot more massive, but the obstetrician was a lot closer.